the recording. So this is regarding like what is ISO cost and like ISO count and ISO cost line actually. So that is the thing. Like I will just explain it again. So this is a sorry. Okay. So this is the ISO cost curve. Okay. Sorry. Again, I'm making a mistake. Sorry. Isocont curve. Okay, isocont curve means it's a curve like which shows the combination of two different factors which will be yielding the same level of output. Okay, so that is what we have defined it like initially. So like here, like for the theory, normally we are taking capital and labor as the two important factors. That also we know. So capital and labor are the two factors. So if it is going to be a point A, then it means that this much unit of capital and this much unit of labor combination is used in the production process, which will be yielding a same level of so if this IQ, if we take it as 100 units, like it can produce 100 unit means all this combination is going to show you the same 100 units. Okay. So here it is like by using more of capital and less of labor, we are making a production. And in the same curve, like if you take some other point called B, so this point indicates that more of labor is used and less of capital is used, and the same 100 units is being produced. Okay, so these are the combinations by which like we can use the two factors, capital and labor, and we can get the same level of output. So ISO count represents the same level of output. And again, like whether we are going to choose A or B, this depends upon our own economic condition, like whether we are capitalist nation or whether we are a like what to say, like developing nations. So developing nations normally labor will be much more cheaper than the capital. Capital will be costlier for them. So based on that, they can choose it. And again, like a certain production needs technology. So in that sense, if there is a high need of technology, then you can go for a point A, even if it is a developing nation. So there can be a point neutral also where the capital and labor ratio is being used in the same proportion. So there are many factors which it determines whether you are going to choose A, B or C. But whatever might be your combination, this ISO count represents 100 units of some output. That is the concept of ISO count. Okay. And then comes isocont map, like you know this. So isocont map is there. So this is isocont 1, this is isocont 2, isocont 3. So this map represents when you are shifting towards the right, when this isocont is shifting towards the right, it shows a higher level of production. Okay, so isocont 1 means might be like you can take it as 100 units, 2 means 200 units, and 3 means 300 units. So normally a rightward shift in the isocont represents more unit of production, and again more unit of combination of factors of production. So it can be capital and labor. So all these by these combination of factor, what is that, like you can produce them. So that is what is isocont map is. Then next one is the ISO cost line. So ISO cost line is nothing but like it will be a straight line like this. So this we call it as a ISO cost line. Uh, and the meaning of this is like this is something similar with the price line which we have seen in the consumer equilibrium. Okay, so same like that. So here what it indicates is like if you are having some amount to invest on, like if the complete amount is going to be invested on capital alone, what is the maximum capacity that you can hire a capital or invest this amount on a capital? So that maximum limit we'll be fixing. So for example, if you have 1 lakh and if you are going to start with 1 lakh, so that is your starting point. So 1 lakh, if it is going to be invested on capital alone, what is the maximum that you can hire a capital? And the same way, like if the same 1 lakh is going to be invested on labor, what is the maximum amount of labor that you can hire for your work? So that maximum limits will be taken, and a line will be drawn connecting both the things, which we call it as a ISO cost line. Okay, so ISO cost line, or otherwise we can call this as a factor price line also. Why? Because the prices which is paid to the factors, that is what the indication is. So very simply, like if you want to understand, you can use this as a factor price line, or you can call this as a ISO cost line. Okay, so ISO cost is the technical name, but the factor price line, like for to better understand the concept, we can use it. So this is what the concept is. So this is your limit. So this becomes your limit. So okay, like if I'm going to have 1 lakh, and if I'm going to start a business, this is my limit. So whatever that I decide upon, it should be within this limit only. Again, like if some point, if I'm going to choose here, bit like within the limit, that it means that I'm not using the resources completely. Okay, I'm underutilizing the resources. So normally in business, underutilization should not be there. You should try to use the resource, all the available resources to the maximum extent. So this point, we will not be calling it as a, like if you are going to choose a point somewhere here, we will not call this as a equilibrium point. Like that won't be an optimum point, in fact. Okay, very technically speaking. Or again, we cannot choose a point somewhere here also, because this is beyond our limit. And if you want to reach this level, we need some more investment. So that is also not possible. So always an equilibrium level or an optimum level in a production process will be choosing a combination which falls in this ISO cost line. So that is factor price line. Okay, so now we will go on to like this is how the producer's equilibrium is determined. No, that you know. So we normally take a point where this ISO cost and ISO count intersect. This equilibrium point, we call it as a producer's equilibrium point. Okay, so that is how we determine the producer's equilibrium point. But now the question was like how to get returns to scale. Okay, so what is this returns to scale? Normally returns to scale, actually it shows you what is the return, that is the output that you are going to get by some scale of production. So scale of production is nothing but combination of inputs. Okay, so by combining certain inputs, what is the output that you are going to get it? So if you are using like if you are using a same proportion of labor, like not labor, again the factors. So example, we can take labor and capital. So if the same proportion is used throughout, whether the output is increasing or decreasing or is going to be same, that is what the three different types of returns to scale. So for with the same proportion, that is 2 units of capital and 2 units of labor. If you are making a production and if you are able to produce 100 units, and again, while they are increasing the production activity, so they are increasing in the same proportion. So 4 units of capital and 4 units of labor, it should be 200 units. But instead of 200 units, if it is going to be 250 units, then it is called as the increasing returns to scale. Okay, so you are getting a returns which is higher than the previous one. So this is what is called as increasing returns, and normally economists believe that this happens in the industrial sector. Okay, so this is increasing returns. Instead of increasing returns, if we are going to get like 200 units itself, then we call this as a constant return. Constant, the proportion here, the increase in input as well as the increase in output is in the same proportion. So this we call it as a constant returns. But in the place of if you are able to get only 180 units, like the total unit have increased from 100, it has changed to 180. But what is the contribution of this 2 unit of capital and this 2 unit of labor is only 80. So from 100, it has come to 80. So we call that as a diminishing returns. Okay, so this is what the general theory. Generally, this is what is known as returns to scale. And normally this diminishing returns happens in a agriculture sector or agro-based industry. That is what we normally believe it. And again, that what actually happens. So as we developing economy or based on agriculture sector, we always face with this particular problem. So this is the another concept. So this is what actually the returns to scale is about. Okay. So when you are using a same proportion of input combinations, that is the labor and the capital combination, the returns that you are getting, whether it is increasing or constant or diminishing, based on that we can say returns to scale and also all those things we have seen. So how to see with isocon? That is your question. Okay. So just increasing returns if you take. Okay. I'm taking increasing returns first. Increasing returns if you are taking. Not to confuse with, I'm not taking a factor price line. But if you are very clear, you can take a factor price line also. So for me also no issues. I'm taking a factor price line. And I'm taking an isocon curve. So this intersection point becomes my equilibrium point. So I'm producing 100 units. Okay, I'm producing 100 units with this combination. And this combination shows that 2 unit of labor and 2 unit of capital I'm using in the production process. Okay, so this is my first level. So here, when they are explaining it with isocont, what they are saying is they are not uh, like using a same proportion of inputs. But what they are saying is to get the same proportion of output, what is the combination of input is used. Based on that, they are trying to explain whether it is an increasing returns or a diminishing returns. So the next combination is like, for example, 200 units. If I want to produce 200 units, that is same 100 units rice in, whereas I need only 3 units of labor, okay, and 3 units of capital. Okay, so to produce same 100 units, what is the excess of labor and capital that I'm using is only 1 unit of labor and 1 unit of capital. Whereas the initial point, I was using 2 units of capital and 2 units of labor. But now I am using 1 unit of capital and 1 unit of labor to get same that 100 units of. So which means that I'm using less of inputs to get the same amount of output. Or if I'm going to use the same proportion of input, then like obvious, like my output will be greater than this 200 unit. So it will not be 200 units. So which is called as the increasing returns. Okay. So for that reason only, like don't take it as 2 units of labor and all, then you will not be able to do it. So have it as 3 units, 3 units. The next one you can have it as 5. The next one you can have it as 6. So that very first unit you are using 3 units. For the second production level you are using 2 units, and third production level you are using 1 unit. Likewise you can explain it. But as I used 2 units, only this much I can show. Okay, so this value you can put like whichever the combination that you want to show, you can show it. But you have to be careful in defining the concept that to get the same proportion of output, more of labors and capital if it is used, that we call it as a decreasing returns. Less of capital and labor if it is used, we call it as a increasing returns. And if this proportion is going to be the same, we call it as a constant returns. So this becomes the increasing returns. In the same way, like if you want to see a constant returns, it can be like this is 100 units. Okay, so the combination shows 2 units of capital and 2 units of labor. And again, next 100 units, that is 200 units. Again, 2 more units of labor. So 4 units of labor and 4 units of capital is used. So likewise, if the proportion is going to be the same, we call this as a constant returns. So already increasing is over. So if you want to show the diminishing returns, okay, so diminishing returns, 100 units. So for 100 units, 2 units of 2 units of capital, 2 units of labor is used. For the next 100 units, it is 200 units. First, it is 2 units. Now it is a need of 3 units. So here it is 5 units of labor and 5 units of capital. So for the next 100 units, same 100 units, you should use 9 units of labor and 9 units of capital. So what is the meaning? For the first 100 unit, 2 is used. For the next 100 units, 3 units are used. And for the next 100 units, 4 units are used. So to get the same proportion, they are increasing the like input combination. So labor capital ratio, they are using more to get the same amount. So it means that they are in a diminishing returns. They are not able to produce it like they are not that much capable of, so they are having a diminishing returns. If they are going to use the same proportion of 2 units of labor and 2 units of capital, they will not be in a position to reach that 200. They will be producing below that. So that is why we call it as a diminishing returns. So likewise, if you want, you can just show with the ISO count. Okay. If you feel that you want to show the ISO cost also, you will be drawing an ISO cost line like this. Okay, so there will be a, sorry. So the ISO cost line will also be like this so that we can take the equilibrium point. But whichever is easy for you, just to follow that. I don't want you to complicate it, but be clear on the concept alone. Okay, so this is increasing returns where less of inputs is to get, used to get the same level of output. Okay, so this is what is isocont and the laws of returns to scale. Is that clear, or like if you have some doubt, like I will clear it.
I understood it well. Thank you.
Okay. Just a minute, I didn't get. Sorry. Okay, my headset is down. Yes. Is that okay, ma? Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah,
Thank you.
okay, fine. So I will stop recording. Okay.